Prologue. Terry McGinnis never had it easy. When his parents split up, he moved in with his father Warren, but the two didn't get along very well. Terry was a free spirit who rejected his father's rules. Then Terry fell in with a tough crowd and ended up getting into trouble. Meanwhile, Warren McGinnis was putting in long hours, working for Wayne Powers Industries. The company had been built into a powerful international corporation by billionaire industrialist Bruce Wayne. But Wayne lost control of his company to Derek Powers, a greedy, corrupt businessman. When Warren uncovered a secret file showing that Powers was developing an illegal toxic nerve gas, Powers had him silenced by a criminal associate named Mr. Fix. On the night of Warren's death, Terry had argued with his father and stormed out of their apartment. When he learned of his father's murder, Terry was racked with guilt. He should have been there, he felt. He could have done something, maybe saved his father's life. Terry had already stumbled upon Bruce Wayne's secret, the fact that he was the original Dark Knight detective, the Batman. So Terry snuck into the Batcave and borrowed Wayne's superpowered suit. Wayne hadn't used the suit since he stopped fighting crime as the Batman over 20 years ago. Using the Batsuit's incredible abilities, coupled with his own ingenuity, Terry McGinnis avenged his father's death and earned the respect of Bruce Wayne. Wayne then offered Terry a job. 2 jobs, really. One as his assistant, the other as the new Batman. Terry accepted both. Young Terry McGinnis now fights crime in Gotham City. Through the Batsuit's built-in communication system, he's able to stay in contact with Bruce Wayne, so he can benefit from Bruce's knowledge, experience, and high-tech resources. Terry McGinnis is the Batman of tomorrow, the future Knight. He still doesn't have it easy, but he wouldn't want it any other way. You're listening to Batman Beyond. Return of the Joker. Novelization by Michael Teitelbaum, based on the original story by Paul Dini, Bruce Timm, and Glenn Murakami. Chapter 1. The sleek black shape of the Batmobile sliced through the neon Gotham night. Unlike the Earthbound Batmobile used by Bruce Wayne during his days as the Batman, this souped-up machine could fly. Dipping in and around the jagged electric skyline, the speeding craft made its way steadily toward the waterfront. Once a run-down, dangerous part of town, frequented only by thieves and muggers, this section of the gleaming high-tech city was now home to a series of huge industrial buildings. 17-year-old high school senior Terry McGinnis sat at the controls of the Batmobile. His thoughts turned, as they did each time he donned the enhanced Batsuit, to his father's murder. This was the key event in his life, and the turning point that brought him to his new role as Batman, the once and always protector of Gotham City. Terry pushed these thoughts aside as a sprawling industrial building loomed before him. A neon sign atop it read Gotham Shipping. By day, this area was a bustling complex where technical equipment arrived in the city to be transported to its final destination. At night, it was a quiet, empty part of town, silently holding its breath until the first light of morning brought the chaos of commerce back once more. Batman flipped a switch on the Batmobile's control console. The gleaming metal underbelly of the craft slid open, revealing the city below. Batman engaged the vehicle's autopilot, then leapt from his seat into the cool night air. His boot jets flared to life as he headed toward the imposing structure below. In a small office just inside the main entrance of the Gotham Shipping building, a security guard leaned back on his dented metal folding chair. On most nights, the guards fought boredom rather than intruders. This night, however, would be different. His feet resting on his tiny desk, the guard flipped through the day's Gotham Globe for the second time that evening. A noise startled him. The guard leapt to his feet and pulled his laser weapon from its holster, then stepped out of the office. Out of the darkness, a shaggy claw swiped at the guard, knocking the weapon from his hand and ripping several buttons off his uniform jacket in one swift motion.
"Stay back!"
the guard yelled, glancing down in horror at his torn clothing and empty hand. The attacker came closer, stepping into a small pool of light shining from the office. The half-human, half-hyena creature that stood before him let out a shrill cackle that echoed eerily through the cavernous building. The guard turned to run, but the creature was too fast. It bared its needle-sharp teeth and flashed its razor-like claws, then sprang forward, knocking the guard to the ground. The fur-covered beast sniffed the unconscious guard like a dog surveying a potential meal, then turned around to face its companion. A tall, gangly figure wearing clown makeup and a pointed witch's hat looked down at the motionless guard.
He should have said heel,
he joked. In the building's main warehouse, a thick-fingered brute operated a hoverlift. The flying forklift worked like a pair of floating mechanical hands, grabbing a huge control console. The brute, whose face was also covered in clown makeup, pulled a lever on the hoverlift. The massive mechanical hands ripped the giant console from its housing, but as the hoverlift tried to back away, the console got caught on two other delicate pieces of machinery.
"Slag it!"
shouted the gruff-voiced brute as he struggled to remove the console without tipping the hoverlift. From the shadows, twin girls came bounding and tumbling like acrobats towards Bonk's hoverlift. They were both dressed in identical clown makeup, halter tops, and floppy hats. Executing perfect handstands, then cartwheels, the twins leapt into the air, landing on either side of Bonk.
"He's really got a delicate touch, Dee. Delicate like a moose, Dee,"
replied the other girl. The two Dee grabbed the hoverlift's controls and gently moved its metal claws. Within seconds, the control console cleared the machinery that had blocked it, and the lift backed away smoothly. Bonk scowled first at one Dee and then the other.
"I hate ripping this heavy junk,"
he snarled.
"Give me cash cards any day."
A second hoverlift pulled up alongside Bonk's. At its controls sat a heavy-set man, also wearing clown makeup.
"Zip it, Bonk,"
he ordered.
"Plan is get in and get out, fast."
Wolf, Ghoul, Bonk, the Dees, and Chucko were all members of the criminal gang known as the Jokers. They were fashioned after the original Joker, longtime enemy of the first Batman, and the scourge of Gotham City 30 years before. These modern-day descendants dressed like demented clowns, following in the footsteps of the criminal madman from whom they took their name. Chucko maneuvered his hoverlift around to the front of Bonk's, then used the mechanical arms on his vehicle to grab one end of the console. As he was doing so, Chucko caught a flash of movement out of the corner of his eye, more shadow than substance. Before he could react, a tall black figure smashed through the window behind him, slamming him from his hoverlift and sending him crashing to the floor below. Batman landed on top of the control console. He brushed shards of window glass from his shoulders, then turned to Bonk and the Dees.
"It's a school night, boys and girls. I'm gonna have to call your folks."
Bonk grabbed the controls of the hoverlift and yanked them violently.
Mom! No!
The Dees shouted together, but the hoverlift lurched to one side. Both girls lost their footing and had to struggle to keep from falling. Batman locked his magnetic boots into place and stood firmly as Bonk shook the console back and forth.
"Yeah, Bonk, don't,"
he mimicked the Dees, smiling. This enraged Bonk even further. He growled like a cornered animal. Batman activated a mechanism hidden in the wrist of his batsuit. Silently, as if the thought alone had triggered it, a batarang appeared in his right hand. Terry McGinnis had gotten completely comfortable wearing the batsuit. It now reacted to his thoughts and movements like a second skin. He tossed the flat, bat-shaped disc at Bonk, but it only glanced off the brute's heavily muscled body. That's when Wolf struck. The half-animal, half-human leapt at Batman from below, knocking him off the console. Batman hit the floor hard, with Wolf right on top of him. Ghoul joined the fight next, grabbing Wolf's leash and wrapping it around Batman's neck. Batman grabbed the leash with both hands, struggling to loosen the chokehold as Ghoul pulled the leather strap tighter. Chucko scrambled back to his hoverlift and started barking orders.
"Let's go!"
he shouted at Bonk.
"Dee, open the door!"
On the double!
Both Dees jumped from the hoverlift, executing perfect mid-air somersaults. They landed next to the control panel that operated the building doors. One Dee used a handheld electric stun device to short out the building's security system. The other pulled a lever on the panel. A large round door in the floor slid open. On the level below, a flatbed transport vehicle hovered a few feet off the ground. The Dees bounded back up to the hoverlifts. The stolen control console floated slowly through the circular opening in the floor. Giving up hope of loosening the leash that cut into his neck, Batman reached over his head and grabbed Ghoul by the shirt. Lunging forward, he flipped Ghoul over his back, tossing him right into Wolf. The two Jokers tumbled over each other as Batman tore the leash from his throat and filled his lungs with air. Wolf and Ghoul ignored the future night, jumped out through the window and headed down a flight of stairs. Batman let them go. He dashed to the opening in the floor and dove through. Dee spotted Batman coming right at her.
Incoming!
she shouted. Batman landed behind Bonk. He turned and glared at the hero.
You got a death wish, Bats.
He asked.
That year I thought I was just being a good citizen.
Batman replied. Bonk flipped a switch on his hoverlift, opening its mechanical hands and releasing his end of the control console. He powered up the lift's rockets and veered away, carrying Batman with him. Chucko's lift now supported the full weight of the enormous control console.
Bonk, you moron! Get back here!
He screamed, struggling to keep his hoverlift airborne. Bonk left the pilot's seat and tackled Batman. As his hoverlift soared wildly out of control, the surprisingly agile Bonk was on top of the future Knight in an instant. The two combatants crashed to the hoverlift's floor, Batman struggling in vain to gain the upper hand. Suddenly, the careening vehicle slammed into the warehouse wall. It swerved across the cavernous building, smashing into a set of windows and sending shards of shattered glass to the floor below. Bonk forced Batman to the edge of the hoverlift. The hero's head hung upside down as the lift approached the side of the building. But through a garbled haze of pain, Batman spied something that made him smile. He mumbled, struggling to keep Bonk's fist from pounding him again.
What did you say?
Bonk shouted, moving his face close to Batman. Batman nodded and raised his voice.
Flagpole.
A long flagpole jutting out from the side of the warehouse caught Bonk in the midsection, wrenching him from the hoverlift. Winded, Bonk dangled helplessly, hundreds of feet above the ground. Instantly, Batman sprang to his feet and grabbed the lift's controls, steadily plunging the vehicle. Then he shook his head quickly, trying to forget the physical pain he was experiencing and focus on the task at hand. Gunning the lift's accelerator lever, he shot toward Chucko's hoverlift. Chucko, meanwhile, had just managed to gain control of his wobbly craft, but the vehicle strained under the weight of the control console it still grasped in its mechanical hands. Chucko glanced to his right and saw Batman streaking directly at him. The machine was too heavy for his single hoverlift alone, so he decided to drop it and save his skin. He released the control console and veered his hoverlift away, narrowly missing the speeding Batman. At the flatbed, Ghoul and Wolf looked up, expecting to see the console floating gently toward the transport vehicle. Instead, the heavy machine was plunging right at them. Ghoul and Wolf screeched as they dove out of the way. The massive machine slammed into the transport, smashing both itself and the flatbed into bits. Ghoul immediately leapt onto the smoldering wreckage, rummaging through the smoking, sparking mess. Finally, he managed to pull a computer memory board from the console. At least they'd have something to bring to the boss, he thought. Suddenly, a shadow from above crossed Ghoul's face. He looked up to see Batman gliding through the air on the Batsuit's retractable wings. His arms spread wide open. Ghoul tossed a smiley face grenade at Batman, who shifted the course of his descent and dove out of the way. The grenade exploded in midair, its impact slamming Batman into the wall. Dazed but still conscious, he tumbled to the floor. Chucko piloted his hoverlift over to Ghoul and Wolf. Ghoul climbed onto the hoverlift, followed closely by Wolf. They swooped past the flagpole where Bonk dangled, hanging on for all he was worth. As it passed beneath him, Bonk let go and dropped down. The tiny craft, wobbling from the weight of too many passengers, accelerated out of the building. Batman pulled himself off the floor and looked around. The Jokers were gone, but without what they had come for. Behind him, the twisted hunk of wrecked console sparked brightly, then exploded into flames.
That ain't coming out of my allowance,
He muttered to himself. Then he plunged back outside into the cool Gotham night, heading for the Batmobile. Chapter 2. Entering the Batcave still sent chills down Terry's spine. He had thought that by now, he'd have grown used to the place. Maybe after many all-night research sessions at the Batcomputer with his teacher, boss, and mentor Bruce Wayne, he would come to think of it as ordinary. But he was wrong. Like all kids his age in Gotham City, Terry grew up hearing stories about the legendary hero called the Batman, who fought crime not just on the rooftops and streets, but also from within the hidden secrecy of the mysterious Batcave. Terry still could not believe that he was actually the new Batman, that he was privy to the secrets, technology, and knowledge that resided deep inside the private lair. Terry eased the Batmobile through the night sky, to the outskirts of town. Gleaming electric skyscrapers gave way to tree-covered mountains. Rising like a medieval castle from one such wooded expanse was Wayne Manor, home to the billionaire industrialist whose name it bore. Terry guided the Batmobile toward the house, brushing the tops of a thick stand of pines as he began his descent. When the glossy ebony craft was only a few feet away, two huge pines swiveled in opposite directions, like the doors of a cabinet opening, revealing a sheer rock wall. A hidden stone door rose up into the rock wall, opening the secret entrance to the Batcave. Once the Batmobile had cleared the door, it quickly slid closed. Then the pine trees swiveled back to their proper position. The Batmobile flew through a maze of dark tunnels. It had taken Terry several weeks to learn the one and only correct route. Bruce Wayne was a man who liked his privacy. The sleek craft finally emerged from the maze and entered the Batcave's main chamber. Rough rock walls arched up to a tall, craggy ceiling above. Terry gently brought the Batmobile to rest on its landing pad under the stalactites. Then he glanced around at the treasures, trophies, and souvenirs of triumphs and failures past that decorated the vast cave. In addition to the Batcomputer, there was a giant penny standing on its edge, a huge statue of a T-Rex, and several glass museum cases filled with weapons and costumes, each holding a story from the days when Bruce Wayne patrolled the Gotham City night. One long case in particular, a glass cabinet, contained several compartments, each one holding a costume. A previous version of the Batman costume, next to it the one worn by Robin, the Boy Wonder, who had joined the original Batman on so many of his adventures, as well as Batgirl's and Nightwing's costumes, all hung in the case, carefully displayed. The final case was for the advanced Batsuit Terry now wore. More than 2 decades ago, Bruce Wayne had created the Batsuit to increase his own strength and athletic ability. It connected to the wearer's nervous system and worked like another layer of muscle. It also acted as a bulletproof shield against small-caliber ammunition. Bruce had hoped the suit would prolong his years as Batman, and it did for a while. But eventually, his aging heart couldn't take the strain of battling Gotham's worst criminals anymore, even with a souped-up Batsuit. And so he had retired, hanging up the costume next to the others in the display case, where it stayed until Terry entered his life. Wrinkled, a bit hunched over, and easily winded, Bruce Wayne, now in his 70s, may have looked the part of a feeble old man. But his piercing eyes still burned with fire, and the cane he used to help him walk could be wielded when necessary as a most effective weapon. As Terry climbed out of the Batmobile, he heard the unmistakable sound of a batarang whizzing through the air. He followed the spinning blur, watching as it sliced off the head of a dummy of Two-Face, one of the original Batman's most dangerous foes. Next to Two-Face stood dummies of several of Gotham's other legendary supervillains: the Riddler, Killer Croc, and Mr. Freeze. The Batarang circled the Batcave, then was crisply snatched out of the air by the wrinkled but steady hand of the man who had thrown it, Bruce Wayne. Bruce nodded at his dog Ace, a powerful black Rottweiler Great Dane mix who sat nearby wagging his tail, enjoying the sight of his master in action.
Still got it,
Bruce said to Ace. Terry pulled off his mask, revealing a handsome, finely chiseled face and soft black hair. Bruce and Ace joined him near the Batmobile.
How did it go with the Jokers?
I broke up the robbery, but it was weird. 3rd time this month that particular gang was trying to intercept high-tech machinery. Jokers don't use that stuff.
They're probably fencing it. Corporate espionage is big business,
Bruce explained as the trio walked toward the center of the Batcave.
I may as well sit tight until I can get another shot at him,
Terry proposed. Out of the corner of his eye, Terry caught a picture of Bruce on one section of the Batcomputer's main screen. It was part of a news broadcast, and Bruce Wayne was the top story.
Hey, looky here.
That's right, Tom. Today, Gotham billionaire Bruce Wayne stunned the financial world with his plans to resume active leadership of Wayne Enterprises.
The computer-generated newscaster reported.
While shareholders have generally welcomed Wayne's return, support from some key members of the Wayne board has been oddly lukewarm. Company operations manager Jordan Price offered this comment.
The image on the screen switched to that of a tall, thin man in his early 50s. Jordan Price sat comfortably, almost arrogantly, in his large, beautifully decorated office at Wayne Enterprises.
I, of course, join the rest of our Wayne Enterprises family in welcoming back our most valuable senior resource, Bruce Wayne,
Price stated, trying hard but failing to sound happy about this development.
I'm sure we'll all profit from his years of experience. Still, the day-to-day rigors of running a vast multinational conglomerate would be stressful, even for a young man. I hope Mr. Wayne is up to the challenge.
He's not bitter. Much.
Price was next in line for the top spot. My return torpedoed any dreams he had of succession.
You gonna keep him around?
Terry asked. turning away from the screen.
If he'll stay on my terms. I've worked long and hard to regain control of my family's company, and I won't hand it over again. Price can either get with that program or start emailing his resume.
In the background, the newscaster on the screen continued to explain how Wayne had assumed control of his father's pharmaceutical company, diversifying it into areas of computer science and industrial research, making the young Bruce a billionaire many times over. For the past years, Wayne had stayed out of the corporate spotlight, but now he planned to officially take over the reins in a special ceremony at the recently completed Wayne Enterprises complex, a state-of-the-art office and science center. The image of an ultra-modern glass tower flashed on the screen. Though Jordan Price's concerns have given rise to some doubts among shareholders, the market had jumped today with the news of Wayne's return. Shares in Wayne Industries stock were trading briskly this afternoon and had risen 5 points by the final bell. Even though Bruce didn't get around as much as he liked, he still wanted to help the city in some small ways. Terry stroked his chin thoughtfully and looked around the Batcave.
With all the long hours you're planning on putting in at the office, does this mean you'll have less time for...
Terry held up the Batman mask. Bruce smiled, not something Terry had seen him do often.
Who sleeps anymore?
Bruce asked, shrugging. Terry yawned, then stretched. A sharp pain shot through his shoulder. He yelped, suddenly remembering how Wolf had landed hard on top of him earlier that evening.
You okay?
Bruce asked, showing concern in his voice.
You know the Jokers are going in for splicing now? Crazy hyena boy nearly took a bite out of me.
Terry answered, heading to the changing room to switch into his street clothes.
No way I could have explained that to Dana.
Bruce glanced at his watch. He frowned, noting the late hour.
You're not going out now.
Terry stepped from the changing room, wearing his jeans, t-shirt, and brown jacket.
The night is young and so am I,
he announced, grinning.
I'd think a good night's rest might be more beneficial.
Terry slipped the batsuit into his backpack, which he then slung over his shoulder. Heading out of the Batcave, he turned back to Bruce.
Like you said, who sleeps anymore?
Chapter 3. As Bruce Wayne had discovered many years earlier, leading a double life was not easy. Terry raced through downtown Gotham to meet his date at their favorite dance club. Rushing inside, he was immediately overwhelmed by the loud, throbbing music and bright flashing lights that crisscrossed the dance floor. Terry slipped into a booth and scanned the floor for the girl he had been seeing for some months now, sure that she had arrived before him. She always did. But as soon as he was seated, exhaustion from his recent battle flooded over him. His eyes closed, and before long he was snoring, head back, mouth open. Terry's date, a pretty dark-haired girl dressed in a shimmering, sequined miniskirt and matching jacket, spotted him and rolled her eyes. Without missing a beat, she danced over to the booth and pulled Terry to his feet.
Up and at him, Terry,
she said, as Terry tried to shake the cobwebs from his head.
You can doze on Bruce Wayne's time, not mine.
Sorry, Dane,
Terry muttered, forcing a smile and trying to move with the beat as best he could. Dana Tan was one of the smartest and prettiest girls in Terry's high school. He loved her free spirit and sharp mind. Dana had little use for most of the boys in her class, but she was attracted to the simmering danger that seemed to lurk just beneath Terry's handsome exterior. Dana was glad to see her boyfriend. She burst onto the dance floor, shaking her hips and swinging her arms. Terry tried to keep up, but he could barely manage to stay on his feet. Dana had no idea that Terry was the new Batman. She did know that he worked as Bruce Wayne's assistant. She also knew that his work for the billionaire included lots of late nights and many unexplained cell phone calls that pulled him away from their dates.
Great song, huh?
Dana asked, trying to engage him in some kind of conversation. Terry grunted. Dana didn't want to tie Terry down. She respected his apparent need for freedom too much. She just wished he would open up more and share some of the mysterious parts of his life with her, but that was unlikely. Long ago, Bruce Wayne had learned the value of keeping that part of his life a secret. This was one of the first lessons he'd impressed upon his young apprentice. Dana leaned close to Terry's ear and pointed to her friend Blade dancing nearby with a weird-looking guy.
Did you see the squid Blade's with? He you!
Pinching her nose with 2 fingers. Terry agreed, fighting to keep his eyes open. Dana frowned, realizing that Terry wasn't really paying attention.
Terry, my head's on fire,
she said, testing him.
You look good,
he replied, clearly not registering what Dana had just told him. In a daze, he accidentally started dancing with another girl.
McGinnis!
Dana shouted over the blaring music. Terry's head straightened up, and he moved back over to Dana.
Sorry, babe.
He apologized, trying to get back into the dance rhythm.
Guess the day was longer than I thought.
Dana took Terry's hand and led him back to the booth.
Let's sit this one out.
She told him, sighing. She flagged down a waitress.
Coffee, and leave the pot.
Not all of Gotham had been rebuilt into a shining, ultra-modern city of tomorrow. A few neighborhoods had been left to deteriorate. A crumbling factory in one such rundown section was the former home of the Jolly Jack Candy Company. The faded Jolly Jack sign painted on the front of the building could still be seen, but the candy company had gone out of business long ago. However, this did not mean that the factory was empty. Far from it. The inside of the building had been converted into the Joker's headquarters. The main floor looked like a bizarre cross between a Gothic castle and an expensive toy store. The gang had recently returned from their failed attempt to steal the control console from the Gotham shipping building. They now stood before their leader, who sat at one end of a long table, hidden in shadows. Chucko stared down the length of the table toward the leader's eyes, which gleamed through the darkness.
Batman showed up and we had to ditch. We were able to save this.
He pulled out the computer memory board he had taken from the wrecked console and slid it down the length of the table.
The console's memory board. I know it's not much, but...
It's not much?
Interrupted the shadowy figure. His purple-gloved fist smashed the memory board to bits. On the table next to the leader sat a jar of Jolly Jack jelly beans. The jar skidded a few inches with the impact of the blow.
It's nothing.
The leader glared at the group before him.
Losers. All of you. A disgrace to the name Joker. Why, in my day...
In your day?
Bonk stepped forward, interrupting.
Ever since you conned your way into this gang, it's been your day this and your day that. Bonk?
Chucko said, raising his hand, trying to warn his teammate that this confrontation could not possibly have a happy ending. Bonk shoved Chucko's hand away. He was on a roll, and not about to stop.
Your day is over, old man, even if you are who you say you are. And personally, I think you're a fake.
The shadowed figure took a jelly bean from the jar and leaned back in his seat. The faint hint of a smile was just visible.
Ah, brave new world that has such putzes in it.
He tossed the candy into his mouth. Bonk turned to the rest of the Jokers, looking for support.
He's got us running around ripping a lot of geek junk, but no cash. He won't tell us what his plan is, if he even has one. I want out.
The leader lifted a strange-looking weapon, like a toy pistol with a comically big barrel, and pointed it at Bonk.
If you insist,
the dark figure said, taking aim. Bonk's expression changed instantly. He began to sweat.
Hey man, take it easy. I was just kidding.
The leader fired the weapon. A flag that said bang popped out.
So was I.
The Jokers let out a collective sigh of relief. Their leader smiled a cold, thin grin. Then he fired again, and the flag shot out of the gun like a slender dart, slamming him onto the long table.
Oops. No, I wasn't.
The shadowy figure stood up, then stepped into the light. A broad grin filled his chalk-white face, and his oily green hair shone in the light. The original Joker, Batman's all-time greatest enemy, stared in mock sympathy at Bonk. Bonk gasped in shock as his pained face twisted into a hideous version of the Joker's trademark grin. As the toxic venom spread, he grabbed his jaw in agony. Then his head dropped back, lifeless.
That's also how we did it in my day.
He strode toward the remaining Jokers, hands clasped behind his back. The gang members backed away, terrified.
You know, kids, a lot has changed while your old Uncle Joker's been away. New Gotham, new rules, even a new Batman.
He began, looking right at the frightened group. The Joker spread his arms wide and smiled enthusiastically.
But now I'm tanned, I'm rested, and I'm ready to give this old town a wedgie again.
The Jokers looked at one another hopefully. Perhaps they were not all about to suffer Bonk's fate.
I have to know you're with me. Will you say it for me one time?
We're with you.
The 5 remaining gang members all shouted quickly.
Little louder.
We're with you.
The Jokers screamed at the top of their lungs. The Joker stepped between the Dee-Dees, putting an arm around each one.
Dee-Dee?
We're with you.
Both girls shouted. The Joker cornered Chucko and Ghoul. He was clearly enjoying this show of power.
Boys?
We're with you!
The two Jokers yelled in strained voices.
Bonk?
He asked, leaning toward the stiff body.
Oh, right. Dead. Dee Dee, be a lamb and sweep out the trash. There's the good girls.
Then he stood up and surveyed his troops.
Your renewed faith puts a smile in my heart. What say we forget tonight's mishap and start over?
Great, boss.
Chucko agreed instantly. The Joker grinned, then turned to Ghoul.
Ghoul, my boy, we're going to need another system scanner. Who's got one they'd be willing to donate?
Ghoul nodded,
Checking.
then typed away on the computer keyboard.
What we're after is cutting edge. These are the only other places we'd find one.
A list of names popped up on the monitor. The Joker leaned in toward the screen and read down the list.
Nope. Nope.
The Joker smiled wickedly and pointed to a name on the list. Ghoul looked up at the Joker. The shock registered on his face.
What, there?
He exclaimed, looking at the listed Wayne Enterprises complex.
Security's gonna be tight.
Oh, yes.
The Joker snickered, his evil smile growing even broader.
But think of the fun.